We begin with news just in. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who has arrived in Lviv ahead of his meetings with the leaders of Ukraine and Turkey. According to a UN previous announcement, Mr. Guterres will on Thursday attend to bilateral issues and will travel to Odessa on Friday to discuss the grain deal. Mr. Guterres will hold a trilateral meeting with Ukrainian leaders, Turkish presidents to discuss the inner workings of the Black Sea grain deal. The UN said he also plans to hold a bilateral meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. In July, Ukraine and Russia agreed to a deal brokered by the United Nations and Turkey to allow the resumption of vital grain exports from Ukrainian Black Sea ports. Mr. Guterres will travel to Istanbul on Saturday. His spokesperson also said the Russians are aware of the Secretary General's plans. Ukraine's defense intelligence has hinted the start of a long-awaited and touted counteroffensive to retake territory lost to Russia could be starting soon. Its spokesperson in a televised address today said in the near future there will be very acute events on the entire front. According to Andriy Yuzov, a spokesperson for the defense intelligence of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, he says this is not about binding to any date. However, we have to consider the factor of the Independence Day of Ukraine. He was referencing the country's Independence Day on August the 24th. Russian forces have continued to attack multiple Ukrainian military targets with high-precision weapons. This is according to the Russian defense military, while Ukraine said that its armed forces had repelled Russian attack in several directions. Russian Defense Ministry also said that in their daily news release that the Russian aerospace forces used high-precision weapons to hit the command and observation posts of the 3rd Battalion of the 46th Air Mobility Brigade of the Ukrainian Army in Kherson Oblast, as well as a temporary deployment point of the brigade. The Russian forces also carried out concentrated strike on the positions of the Ukrainian 72nd Motorized Infantry Brigade in the Donetsk region. In a Ukrainian position in Donetsk, the Russian forces found some French-made anti-tank mines. The General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces said on the same day that the Ukrainian forces repelled the Russian attack in the directions of Sivyansk, Kramatorsk and Bakhmut, while the fighting in the direction of Avdiivka and Zaporizhzhia was still in progress. The Russian side also said that the Ukrainian Armed Forces shelled the city of Enodoha. This is on Tuesday, where the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is located. The Russian side said the move aimed to provoke a Russian counterattack. The Ukrainian side reports are saying that Ukraine has taken responsibility for this, but the Ukrainian State Nuclear Power Corporation said that as of yesterday morning, the excessive radiation and fire safety risks of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant had not been eliminated. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that various reasons could be behind Russian annexed Crimea's explosions and warned people in occupied territories to stay away from Russian military sites. Moscow denounced sabotage, and Ukraine hinted at responsibility for the explosions at the military base that is an important supply line for Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The blasts engulfed an ammunition depot at a military base, the north of Crimean Peninsula, disrupting trains, forcing the evacuation of over 2,000 people from a nearby village. The explosions raised the prospect of new dynamics in the 6-month-old war if Ukraine now has capability to strike deeper into Russian territory, or pro-Kiev groups if they're having success with guerrilla-style attacks. The president also asked people in the region to be careful.
Причини вибухів на окупованій території можуть бути різні, дуже різні, в тому числі, цитую...
The reasons for the explosions in the occupied territory can be different, very different. In particular, I quote the definition of the occupiers themselves, all of them bear the same sense. The destruction of the occupiers' logistics, the ammunition, military and other equipment, and commanders' posts save the lives of our people. The fewer opportunities the occupiers have to spread evil and kill Ukrainians, the sooner we'll be able to end this war by liberating our land. And the queue to leave Crimea for Russia and cross the bridge these days proves that the absolute majority of citizens of the terrorist state already understand, or at least still feel, that Crimea is not a place for them. Because the leadership of Russia expects that Ukrainians, Europeans, and the whole world will feel tired from this war, we therefore must do everything so that it is not us or our friends and partners who get tired, but our enemy. Today, the Russian army continued its absolutely senseless and brutal shelling of the cities of the Zaporizhia and Dnipropetrovsk region. Unfortunately, they are victims. Shelling of Kharkiv and the border area continues. But all of this gives nothing to the occupiers, and it won't break our resistance.
Російської армії і усіх тих місць, де вони зберігають боєприпаси і техніку, де тримають свої штаби. Російська армія цієї доби продовжила абсолютно безглузді, жорстокі обстріли міст.
Meanwhile, Ukraine's state emergency service have released a video today showing the aftermath of a Russian missile strike 60 kilometers south of Odessa in the coastal town of Zatoka. Ukraine's state emergency service said in a Facebook post that the strike left 4 people wounded, caused fire, severe damages in one of the town's resorts. The railway bridge in Zatoka is a key connection between Odessa region's south to the rest of Ukraine and has been targeted during the war several times before. Elsewhere in Mykolaiv, the city's mayor reported Russian missiles hitting the south Ukrainian frontline city early this morning. According to Mayor Oleksandr Senkevich, 2 C-300 rockets hit Petromoila Black Sea National University, leaving no casualties. The strike damaged walls, doors, university interiors, broke many windows. The director of the Black Sea National University said the university was ready for the attack as he walked on broken glass in one of the university's damaged halls. As the Russian invasion of Ukraine entered its 175th day, VOA's Anna Chernikova joins us now for more on the situation on ground. Hello, Anna. It's nice to see you. Let's begin with the shelling in Crimea. What's really going on there? And is it Ukraine that's causing it?
Good evening. Well, the situation in Crimea is definitely a very positive sign for Ukraine in this war. Ukrainian authorities gave a lot of hints that Ukraine is involved, and they do not confirm this directly, so we don't have any direct confirmation or any announcement, official announcement, but we hear a lot of hints, and of course we realize that this is something, something specific that Ukraine would probably be interested in. According to CNN and to the New York Times, and according to their anonymous sources, they are claiming they have anonymous sources in the Ukrainian authorities, within the Ukrainian authorities. They say that they actually have confirmation that Ukraine is involved. It looks like this. Ukrainian authorities give hints on that, particularly President Zelensky and head of President Office, Mr. Yermak, also said in his latest announcement that Ukraine definitely consider Crimea as its territory, and that Ukrainian armed forces will continue their job until all territories, occupied territories, are liberated. So what we know, particularly from what happened in Crimea, so attacks and explosions happened in 3 main air bases, airfields, and these airfields are pretty much very deeply involved in the Russian offensive on the southern part of Ukraine. Particularly yesterday, what happened in Jankoy and next to Simferopol, in Simferopol area, according to British intelligence, these two air bases are the main and the key for Russian offensive on the southern of Ukraine. And this definitely makes Russia very nervous and makes Russia very uncertain about the safety of Crimea, because Russia is saying and announcing that Crimea is a pretty much safe place, but now we can see that it's not that safe as Russian officials are trying to put it. So this is what we have for the moment, and we also know that quite a lot of equipment was destroyed and quite a lot of military
Weapons,
equipment and
ammunition,
military
yes.
Explosive were destroyed. So of course it was quite if it's Ukraine, it was quite a successful actions.
And Anna, perhaps away from that, while we, watch closely what happens in Crimea, because we understand people are also leaving that area. We were all excited hearing the first grain shipments left Odessa under the deal brokered by the UN. We understand the UN Secretary General has landed Lviv, and then this deal was also done with Turkey. But now we're hearing it appears to have ended up in Syria. Because, during the last visit, Putin and the president of Syria, we understood that Syria said it was cutting ties with Ukraine. So what are we missing?
Well, what we know about this particular ship, that it was supposed to bring Ukrainian grain to Lebanon, but Lebanon refused to receive it due to the, as they said, because of the dates of delivery were late. So what we know that part of this grain came to Turkey, and it was actually, it was basically left in Turkey, part of the grain. And then, according to the map, according to the official reports, it was supposed to go to Egypt. However, we know that at certain point, as we can see with the coordinates that the ship was providing, the last coordinates available were in the waters of Cyprus, and then the ship. So the coordinates were not available, and then we can see from the satellites that ship is in Syria. We don't have any official comments on that from the Ukrainian side, from any side actually, so it might come later on. We will see, but what I can say is that definitely it was not openly planned, at least, so it was supposed to be in Lebanon, and then it was supposed to be in Egypt. So we will see what official comment would be and how it will end up. But of course, it looks it looks unexpectedly, because definitely Syria was not the final destination for this grain, as it was mentioned in the official records.
All right, and Anna, we've been hearing Washington, D.C.-based Institute for the Study of War said that Russia has launched offensive operations in and around the Donetsk region in recent days. What can you tell us as to what Russia controls at the moment?
Situation in the front line hasn't really significantly changed. So if we talk about Donbas, we know that Russian forces had certain advances, not much, but in some areas, similarly to Ukrainian forces. So very heavy battles are going on in this very minute as well. We know that Pisky region and Bakhmut region, these two regions are under the most heavy fightings for the moment. We hear a lot of reports that Russian forces are shelling residential areas, and residential areas are under constant fire, as well as civilian infrastructure and military infrastructure. Today, for instance, in one of the settlements in Donetsk region, Russian forces hit the village, and with only one hit, 10 houses were destroyed, and it was quite a bad hit. But for the moment, we have confirmation that no victims are in place. Hopefully, there are not going to be any, but again, numbers could change. If we look down to the south, we can see that Kherson region is definitely where the second main front line is lying, and Ukrainian forces have quite a lot of success there. Again, counteroffensive actions are going on. We hear a lot about the damages that Ukrainian forces are doing, and we hear that a lot of Russian bases are destroyed by Ukrainian forces, both in Kherson region and in Zaporizhia region. So, for example, today, Novakhovka, which is in Kherson region under occupation, there we heard about heavy explosions and we know that the Russian base was destroyed. Similarly, in Melitopol, a huge explosion happened, and for the moment we don't have precise details, but it looks like damages are also in place and casualties probably as well. And similar situation in Luhansk region. If we look at the official reports, it was a report of by the head of military administration of Luhansk region that Ukrainian forces destroyed a base and at least 100 Russian soldiers were killed. But again, numbers could change and more details could come soon.
Anna, we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. VOA's Anna Chernikova joining us from Kyiv. As German residents worry about rising energy costs and supply shortages, one village in Mecklenburg, Western Pomerania, is finding its own solutions to climate change and effects of the Ukraine crisis. With wood on their doorstep and the initiative of forest owner Heine von der Ostensacken, many of the local residents joined a local heating network that runs off spare wood chips. And a descendant of the Baltic noble family has offered all neighboring households the option to connect to his wood chip heating system, and almost all of them have accepted the offer. He says that he has enough wood to spare on his 150 hectares, as the branches of the treetops have no economic use and can be spread. Some of the trees need to be felled as they have become rotten. Others fell in a recent storm. The wood chips can be created directly on site, while the thick trunks have to be transported to a large stationary chipper.
Aufgeschichtet, das wird gehackt und dann in die Holzhackschnitzelheizung als.
And Finnish Foreign Minister Pekka Haavisto has said that the Finnish decision to slash the number of visas issued to Russians could increase pressure for a common European Union visa policy. Finland announced yesterday it will reduce the number of visas issued to Russians from September 1, cutting daily visa application appointments in Russia from 1,000 to 500 per day, with just 100 collected to tourists. Minister Haavisto said at a news conference with his Estonian counterpart, Umaris Reinsalu, adding that the issue would be discussed at an upcoming informal meeting of EU foreign ministers at the end of the month. With European airspace shut to Russians, many have been traveling through bordering Baltic countries and Finland in order to fly to other parts of Europe on Schengen visas. The visas allow 90 days of travel within the 26-country border-free Schengen area. Well, still to come on the program, we'll be talking with an immigration lawyer to make a sense of what this means, banning travel, or restricting travel for those coming from Russia through Europe for tourism. Please stay with us.